Our friend Mike Mayock and his weekly appearance here on the Rich Eisen Show is back. Great to see you, Mike. How are you?
I'm good.
What's
I
up,
think the
Mike?
question
Let's
is,
go.
how are you after that long week? And I don't even know how you got back in LA in time to do your show.
I literally, as soon as we were done, well, hold on a minute. As soon as Daniel, Charles Davis, and the rest of the crew were done clowning me with my simulcams of my 40s, I dashed to the airport, man. I got out. I did my 40. My first 40 was getting to the car to go to the airport. So I got out.
I consider your simulcast a tradition like none other.
Well, you know what? It's all born out of, as you know, determination. I would call it guts, you know, and your guidance and help for all those years as well. But yeah, as soon as I got back here, and I always want to be in this chair the day after a big event like that. What did you think of whatever you were able to see over the 4 days, Mike?
It was enjoyable to me on several levels. What happens, Rich, when we're grading a lot of players and it's a process, is you're trying to build at each level.
Mm-hmm.
So there are a couple players, for instance, that I had pretty high grades on after the season. Matter of fact, higher grades than most people. And I was nervous about, okay, what are they going to look like in the postseason All-Star games and the combine? And two of those guys I was really looking at this weekend were tight end Terrence Ferguson from Oregon.
Mm-hmm.
And I put a big grade on him off tape, like a late second round, early third. And this is a big tight end class, right? And I've got him as the number 4 tight end overall.
Mm-hmm.
And he ran 4.63. He jumped 40 or 39 inches, I want to say, 10'2" on the broad, showed a bunch of lower body explosion, and it made me feel good because he looked good in the All-Star game. Now I got to see him in a pair of gym shorts running around. He can threaten the seam, play action. He can get deep at level 2 and 3, caught the ball really well. So I think he's going, late 2, early 3. And the other kid I was really interested in was Billy Bowman, the safety from Oklahoma.
He looked good.
And Rich, I don't know if Daniel has a comp on him, but all over my notes, I've got Antoine Winfield Jr. written in
good.
Billy Bowman's notes. They're really close size-wise. The kid had 41 starts, 11 interceptions. He back to the house. So the tape for me was a big check. He tackles, gets guys on the ground, but I wasn't sure what he was going to run. He ran 4.42. I think Winfield was 4.43. So similar size, similar speed. They finish with the ball in their hands, and they get ball carriers on the ground. So I don't think he's going to get past mid-second round, similar to Winfield. And both of them, Rich, you and I have talked for years about checking boxes.
Right.
Both those kids check some boxes.
So which guys need to continue checking boxes, even though maybe they looked like they checked a box over the weekend, Mike?
Yeah, and I've had some conversation with scouts about both these guys. And one of them is Maxwell Hairston. And, he blew out the combine, right? He ran 4.28. Big buzz on him, jump 39 and a half, 10 feet 9. Two things jump off tape with this kid. I didn't even know who he was when I put the first tape in. And his catch-up speed is breathtaking on tape. Like the 4.28 translates, in other words. It's confirmed on tape. Against Texas on a couple deep routes, he made up some distance I couldn't believe on those Texas wideouts. So the other thing that was apparent on tape was tackling might be an issue. And he missed 4 tackles against Texas. Keep in mind, he's 183 pounds. I thought there was a concerning lack of physicality in his game. Now, he missed 6, 7 games this year with a shoulder. I think Texas was his first full game back after the shoulder. So if I'm a GM or a coach looking at his tape, I'm going to be looking at all his special team reps because he was a gunner and a jammer, made a great tackle against Louisville in the open field because he was too fast from the 2 guys trying to block him. So I'm not trying to say that physicality is going to be an issue, but what I'm telling you is they're checking on all of that right now. All the movement skills and the speed jump off tape. First round all day long. But at 183 pounds NFL teams will force you to tackle. If you don't want to tackle and you're 180 pounds, they will force you to tackle schematically. So bottom line, you better be comfortable with this kid's toughness, physicality, and ability to tackle before you put a high number on him.
Mike Mayock here on the Rich Eisen Show. Let's talk about some of the quarterbacks who did, in fact, spin it. I mean, we were coming in looking at Jackson Dart, but the kid from Louisville certainly shined in my mind, and I'm wondering if you think we might have gotten another guy throwing his hat in the ring for a first-round grade, Mike.
Yeah, this is what this process to me is all about. I don't know if you saw the interview that Peter Schrager had with Sean Payton.
Oh, yeah.
The interview to me was a really good job by Peter. Was Sean basically said, hey, I didn't think that Bo Nix had a particularly impressive combine a year ago. And at this time last year, Bo Nix was apparently not their guy. And I think it's really important for fans and people to understand that at this point in the process, you really don't have a guy. You're still answering all the questions, especially at the quarterback position. So you put yourself in Sean's head, and he's going, yeah, Nix wasn't all that impressive at the combine. But beyond that, he liked his tape. I'm sure they worked him out privately, spent a bunch of time with him, and came out of that whole process with like, wow, this kid could be our guy. He's the right fit for Sean Payton and the offense we want to run in Denver and how we're going to go about our business. But that was the process they went through all the way up to draft day, which is what every team in the league is doing right now, Rich, right? So teams are looking at the potential cap casualties. What's going to happen to Derek Carr and Kirk Cousins? What's going to happen with Sam Darnold and Justin Fields? So this whole jigsaw puzzle is going around. And I think Jackson Dart is saying, wait a minute, what about me? I'm a first round guy. And he potentially could be, Rich. And I think he's really similar to Shedeur Sanders with the things they do well. I think they both throw with anticipation. I think they throw with timing, and they throw with accuracy. Neither of them is a dynamic athlete, yet they can make you miss and maneuver in the pocket. Both of them have to win with anticipation and pocket mechanics. Now you bring in the Louisville kid, who is now going to force me, Rich, to go back and watch some more tape on him. Okay? He wasn't even on my list back in August to watch tape of quarterbacks. And now Rich Eisen is saying, is he in the first round conversation? He's a big kid. There's some issues with all the injuries. The best ability is availability. He's had one full season as a college player. He's played about 17 years of college football.
Yeah, right.
So at the end of the day, I think the best thing this kid has done is he's wakened everybody up, people like me, people in all 32 buildings, and I'm going to go back and watch a ton of tape on this kid because he ran 4.63. He's a big, strong kid. I like the way the ball comes out of his hands. Now I'm going to go do some real homework on him.
Yeah, Tyler Shuck, tallest quarterback at the combine, an eighth of an inch shy of 6'5". He and Graham Mertz tied for the largest hands, 9 3/4, which, as you know, is an important metric for a starting quarterback. He is 25. But you did, as you mentioned, he ran and he had a personality, right? He was like blowing kisses to the crowd as he was finishing his 40-yard dash.
He ran it twice.
Now, he ran it twice, exactly.
And he had the whole thing going with the crowd.
It was fun. It was fun. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. and these are all things that you notice and pick up. And I'm sure he's, and Kurt Warner went up to him after the workout, and you could see he was listening intently to what Kurt had to say. So, there's a lot to like about him. And certainly, we were just talking in the previous segment about a team like, say, the Giants, that could go free agent veteran quarterback and then maybe choose their next quarterback in the second round or trade back into the first round while snagging Travis Hunter. Certainly if the fan base is saying you let our most dynamic face of the franchise go down the turnpike and win a Super Bowl, what better way to say, well, we got a veteran quarterback. We're going to try and win now with Malik Neighbors and Travis Hunter, and let's go to work, and maybe they could – go Will Howard or something. I don't know. I'm just throwing some scenarios out there, Mike, you know?
And I like it. And all the pieces of the jigsaw puzzle aren't in yet.
Right.
But let's talk about what we do know, Rich. Of the first 7 teams picking in the first round, 5 of them have heavy quarterback needs. And if let's just say that Cam Ward and Sanders go in the first 7 picks, right? Now, I happen to think Dart might make his way back into that first round somewhere. I think there are just too many quarterback needs, and we've seen too often in the NFL draft where people say, hey, he can fit for us. He's our guy. Now, the intriguing thing is like a week ago, Rich, we were talking about the LA Rams and Matthew Stafford, right? Stafford is now back with the Rams, but they might take a quarterback in the second or third round. Seattle could take a quarterback in the second or third round. Pittsburgh could take a quarterback in the second or third round. And that's not even including the quarterbacks that we talked about at the top end that get shut out for quarterbacks with all those quarterback needs. So it's not a particularly deep class, but I get a huge kick out of all of a sudden seeing this Louisville kid kind of step that big foot into this process and say, time out. I'm going to force you to do the work on me. And, Will Howard, he might have tried to get cute a little bit with some of the throws he made. But again, all these guys are going to have private workouts, and then they're going to have a majority of them are going to sit down with teams with the 30 meetings and spend a full day with them. And I think at the quarterback position, that's the most important thing. And I thought Sean Payton showed last year how important fit and vision are to a quarterback. And I'm so intrigued to see what happens. And let's not forget Jalen Milroe. But he won't be ready for a couple years.
So let's just say both Dart, Shuck, anybody else who you might be able to be, who might be able to fit in is available at 21 and the Steelers are on the clock. What do you think, Mike? And I understand that you keep talking puzzle pieces and, free agency is right around the corner. But
Yeah.
what do you think about that, either of these guys for the Steelers 21st overall? What do you think?
I think that Pittsburgh could look at a Jackson Dart and say, with what he does well, and we marry him to a run game and a defense, and we might have a situation that's similar to what we saw in Denver last year. And this is a talented kid. Really, he can spin it. I looked at him against Alabama in 23, and I think it was LSU last year. Those, amongst other games, he got sacked 11 times in those 2 games. Took a beating, hung in there, made a bunch of throws, but on throws over 21 yards in those 2 games, he was 2 for 16. Okay, and a lot of it was he was taking a beating, and his receivers couldn't win one-on-one. So it's really there's 2 sides to every story here, and you got to get the fit. And could Pittsburgh pull a trigger there? Sure. But I'm nowhere near ready to say that Tyler Shuck is ready to go at 21 or anybody else in the draft. The way it looks to me today, Rich, is I think 3 could go in the first round, and I don't see a 4th yet.
Mike Mayock here, a few minutes left with him right here on the Rich Eisen Show. So, again, we're not looking at the MRI footage, or film or whatever the heck we call it. We don't have the medical team in front of us, but walk me through what flags pop up with Abdul Carter now with what happened over the weekend. There was no surgery there was a conversation for 24 hours. Maybe he does need surgery, and he says he's not going to have it. Well, what happens with this information, Mike?
His agent is Drew Rosenhaus, and I've got a ton of respect for Drew. And Drew will put that young man in the best for 1 overall. He'll have the doctors lined up. He'll have, and if things go well, the doctors will sign off on all the medical. But at the end of the day, if there's something that NFL medical departments are concerned about, it's often feet, believe it or not. And especially when you start talking about stress fractures or potential stress fractures.
Hmm.
I have no idea what Abdul Carter's
Right.
x-ray showed, and I'm not trying to say I do.
Sure.
I'm just saying that if you're going to pick a guy in the top five and you're worried about his feet, you better make damn sure that you've got all your answers from your medical people. Because with the amount of stress that the defensive end puts rushing a quarterback, supporting the run, changing direction, all the rest of it, he's 250 pounds and he's going to be leaning on 320 pounders every snap. With the amount of stress put on your feet from the bottom up, you better be real comfortable with what you see on his imaging and what your doctors in your building are telling you.
Have you been on the business end of a conversation with Drew about a medical issue before,
Oh
Mike?
no, I love Drew because
No,
Drew
I
will
know.
make a deal. But what I'm telling you is, for instance, I'll pick one from my Raider days. I
Yeah.
mean, Trey Smith, who's been maybe the best guard in football the last year or two with Kansas City. He went in the sixth round, and everybody in the league knew he was a first or second round talent. Kansas City took him in the sixth because of a heart situation. And when your doctors tell you point blank, you can't take a guy, you got to take him off the board. And most of the teams in the league did that year, yet Kansas City took a late round chance and they got an all pro football player. So just like off the field issues, Rich, all 32 teams pretty much get the same information, but how they look at that information and make internal decisions varies greatly.
Well, before I let you go, I'll let you react to news that literally just broke during that last answer of yours, Mike, and that is the Bengals have franchise tagged Tee Higgins again. 26.2 million is the tag for him. That indicates to you what?
That they really do desperately want to make a deal with him, and that ultimately they will probably get one done. I don't think they want him playing on the second franchise tag for that much money, counting that much against their cap. I think they're listening to their quarterback, and they should. And I think ultimately what that tells me is they're open and willing to get a deal done.
And that does that open the door, you think, for Trey Hendrickson to get a deal? Or I mean, how does that indicate anything to you about the triple play they're trying to pull off with Chase, Higgins, and Hendrickson for Joe and the team?
Yeah, and I think you prioritize how you're looking at that. And to me, it's Chase in the order you gave. Chase number one, Higgins number two, Hendrickson because of age number three. And you and I talked a couple of weeks ago about
Yes.
how I think they got to feed their offense. It's like Peyton Manning in Indy. Feed the offense. Get the best players you can out there. Joe Burrow's in his prime. He's willing to play games with his contract, just like Mahomes going forward, to give you a chance to sign people. Prioritize those two wideouts. Give Joe Burrow every chance he has, and then do what you can to get Hendrickson signed because the guy's had 17 and a half sacks the last 2 years, but I don't know. That's part of the jigsaw puzzle also, Rich, is how these things work out eventually.
Last one for you, Mike. Obviously, the top players available in the draft didn't work out at the combine. And there's various reasons for that. One, because, their agents said, let's put velvet ropes around you. Your tape says enough. Others are because they played so deep into the college football playoffs, they didn't get to prepare for the combine in a manner that they would be comfortable with, or they're still dealing with aches and pains because they played so darn deep into a college football season that is only going to get longer. And, the league is already talking about once upon a time down the road playing 18 regular season games, and that would push things back. If the combine gets pushed back, maybe to accommodate more kids working out and a regular season in the NFL that gets longer, would the evaluation class front offices want to push back the draft, keep it where it is? Like, how would all this work if they want to push the combine back to get more kids working out in it, Mike?
I think there's a couple things here, Rich. Number one is you have to satisfy yourself as a league that if you do push it back and change everything with the off season, that more kids will work out. And I'm not sure that's the case. So I think more and more kids are choosing to take a step back and put their best foot forward on advice of their agent, whether, some of the kids were going to run 40s but not do positions. Other kids were going to say, I'm going to do the jumps this week and my position, but I'm going to save the speed work for my pro day. Some of the skill guys said, I'm going to throw and catch and do everything where I want to. I'm not sure we're in an era anymore where even moving it back, and really you're only talking about a small group of athletes, Rich. You're talking about the guys that play in the national, the semifinals and the finals, if you move it back 2 weeks. So I'm not convinced that's the right answer anyway. But there are people a lot smarter than me at NFL headquarters that will figure that out.
Another way of just me asking, is the evaluation season too long, or would people say we need to extend that, or they're fine making it smaller, just getting this thing done already,
Yeah, I think most of the league is good with where it is today.
Yeah.
As long as pro days continue, which is another conversation. There's also a flip to your whole question, Rich, is what if we abolish pro days and you have to do everything at a combine or at your all-star game?
I don't know. I just think that they'll just be pro days behind people's backs. You never know, man.
100%.
Yeah, right. 100%.
I worked a kid out that was a former high-round draft pick at a park in downtown Oakland one day. And it was legal, by the way. I called the league office first. And you know what the nuance was, Rich?
No.
If I worked them out in our building, on our fields,
yes,
that would have been illegal. Because I worked them out at a public downtown field in Oakland, it was legal. Don't know why. Thought it was the dumbest thing I ever heard. But I picked them up at the airport. Me and the position coach went out to a little league field, and we ran them and worked them out.
And were you looking around to make sure there's nobody with a camera checking you out? Were you?
Didn't care. It was legal. I checked with the league office, and we ended up signing them.
Wow. Okay. You don't want to say his name? You want to say his name?
He's a defensive end.
Okay. Does he have a large wingspan and have a nickname for it?
I don't even know who you're talking about.
Crosby. Talking about Max Crosby.
No.
Oh, okay.
It wasn't a college player, but this was a guy that had already.
Oh, I got you. Very good.
Yeah.
All right, Mike, you're the best. We'll chat again next week. Thanks for the time.
Thanks, brother.
The one and only Mike Mayock. Love that stuff. Love it, love it, love it. Catch the Rich Eisen Show live weekdays from 12 to 3 p.m. Eastern on Roku Sports Channel in the U.S.